Thank you for all of those that joined. We'll be starting in a minute. Okay, so the minute is over. Thank you for waiting. I'm happy that we are starting this session now. I wish to welcome you all. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. This session will be about Egypt in English language. And you are all welcome to this webinar about the solar PV DG market segment and an update for Egypt, the Egyptian market, and a close look into the IPP model. This webinar is sponsored by LONGi Solar, the leading global energy company that is the only solar PV manufacturer with 50 gigawatt manufacturing capacity. We are very proud and happy to have a very experienced panel with us from Taka PV, from Swedish Electric TND, and from Solarize Egypt. We will be hearing from everyone today, and we are happy that to broadcast this session on social media and not just on Zoom. So if you can't meet us here on Zoom, then or you have colleagues or friends that can't join Zoom, then they can watch us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube, and we'll be sending the links soon so you can share them with your colleagues and friends. Before we start, a couple of admin topics. If you are on Zoom or watching us on social media, please write in the comments if you can hear me well. First of all, if you can see us well on the camera, and if you can hear us well. May I get this feedback from you, please, here in the chat section or in the comments section on social media. So Muhammad Al-Khamhawi, Hamad Muhammad, Fatma Al-Zahra, they all say yes, they can hear me well. Great. So the place where you sent your comment now, please don't send questions there. That is a chat section. You can chat there, communicate, that is fine. But if you have questions to the panelists that you want us to answer in the end of this session, then please send that in the Q&A section. So beside the chat button, there is a Q&A button. Click on that one and send your question there. Then we'll be able to definitely locate your question and make sure to answer that before the end of the session. So we start with introduction. My name is Munif Barakat, which is the biggest renewable energy platform dedicated for the MEA region. I'm pleased to have pioneering experts in the solar industry in the MENA region today. We start with Mr. Felix Wu, who is the country head for Egypt at LONGi Solar. Felix has 10 years of solar PV sales and marketing experience, and he's in charge of the South Asia and MENA region for LONGi Solar. After that, we'll be hearing from Mr. Wafi Al-Qabbani, who is the business development team lead for the renewable energy segment of Swedish Electric TND. He's a mechanical engineer from the Faculty of Engineering at Alexandria University, and he has a master's in science in wind engineering from the University of Applied Science in Kiel in Germany. And he joined Swedish in 2018, and before that worked for a long time in the oil and gas sector, and then did this shift as I think a lot of people are finding renewable energy more interesting and exciting than oil and gas. I hope everyone joins us in this move. After Mr. Wafi, we'll have Ms. Marina Sobhi, who is the solar tendering section head at Taka PV for solar energy. And she has more than 7 years of professional experience in the solar energy. She started as a design engineer and then got promoted gradually to cover more commercial responsibilities and manage many projects for many solar plants in Egypt and the region. And then we'll be closing the session with Mr. Mohammed Al-Sama, who is the CCO, Chief Commercial Officer of Solarize Egypt. Mohammed holds a business administration in management from the University of Toronto in Canada. And before joining Solarize Egypt, he worked for many managerial roles and executive roles at Enterprise Holding in Canada specifically, and we will be hearing about this later, especially about his solar experience in Egypt with Solarize Egypt. So these are the 4 speakers that we'll have today. That was the quick and brief introduction to them. They will be looking into multiple exciting topics today. So we will start about looking into the technology side in the beginning with Mr. Felix, who will be covering the highest and the best technologies that we have today in the market and its suitability for the Egyptian market and how these technologies were applied in the Egyptian market. And then we'll get a status update about the DG market in Egypt and an overview about the EPC model, and that's something that will be covered by Mr. Wafi. And then Ms. Marina will be covering the IPP model and the regulatory requirements to execute projects in that segment. And then we will end with Mr. Mohammed from Solarize Egypt with the case study looking into an actual implementation of IPP projects with a nice success story or multiple success story that Solarize Egypt achieved during the past years. So without further ado, I want to hand over to Mr. Felix that is with us to start and tell us more about the technology. And then please, I want to encourage everyone that is with us to let us know if they have any questions, if they have anything in the that is directly let's say they want to direct to a specific speaker, then please mention that I want Mr. Let's say Felix to answer that question. Please that in the Q&A and don't delay it to the end, because when questions come in the last minute, it's so difficult to answer that in the end. And after Felix, we will run a couple of polls just to also know you better, but by then we will have more attendees, then we can also know more about you, from what country you join us. So the floor is yours, Felix, and thank you for joining with us. You may share your presentation.
Thanks, Mani, for the remarkable openings. It's very impressive. So good evening and good afternoon, distinguished panelists and also online audience. This is Felix from LONGi MEA team. So I'm in charge of the Egyptian business development. So I'm going to have an introduction to you about LONGi, what is our company and what efforts we have done in the solar industry, so that you understood our strengths and what we can do together. So a few quick facts about LONGi last year. So we have a total operating income of about 8.4 billion, and out of that we have found 400 million into the R&D, which is about 5% of our sales revenue. And globally, we have around 60,000 staff in the solar industry. So last year, LONGi is the largest solar wafer manufacturer with 58 gigawatt wafer shipment, and we also reached 85 gigawatt wafer capacity by the end of last year, and keep expanding this year to around 100 gigawatt. And in terms of the solar modules, we are also the first solar company to ship more than 20 gigawatt of modules in 1 year last year. To be specific, it's 24.5 gigawatt module shipments globally last year. So our module capacity was 50 gigawatt last year, and we have been expanding also to more than 60 gigawatt at the end of this year to satisfy more customers. As you can see also in this background, we have global and regional offices for different markets. And to highlight here that for the MEA region, we also have an office based in Dubai, UAE, to cater the local customers over there. So by the end of last year, we have over 5,000 global customers located in all parts of the world in terms of both utility and the DG market. So next, I'm going to depict more about the LONGi company in 3 aspects: innovation, reliability, and their product portfolio. So as you can see, that LONGi actually started our business from the semiconductor industry in the year 2000, and we started entering into the solar industry from the year 2004 and established the first mono ingot and wafer factory in 2005. So up to 2014, we became the world's largest solar wafer manufacturer and started enter also into the downstream business to promote the mono technology. By 2019, we have already added our position in the industry with the top 3 manufacturer, and also we made remarkable efforts to promote the high efficiency solar wafer and module application in the industry. So here what I'd like to show is that each milestone of LONGi has made a very strong force to promote the development of the solar industry. And also this year, LONGi established the hydrogen business division to promote more solar plus hydrogen application in the world. The second point, which I have already just studied, is that LONGi is a company which is putting R&D into the top priority for us. So every year we put around 5 to 7% of our sales revenue into the R&D by collaboration with all the famous university and the institutes in this industry. So overall, we have more than 1,000 patents already. So this is the largest company in the world for the R&D expenditures. So all these R&D has resulted in a lot of achievements in the cell efficiency. So in this year, last month, we have recorded 26.3% with the HGD solar cell efficiency. And this can be applied in the solar modules in the next 2 years. So as I have just shared with you that we started entering the solar module business in the year 2015. In that year, the monocrystalline market share was only 80%, but over the past 6 years, because of this high efficiency technology, with major push from LONGi, the monocrystalline, especially the high efficiency monocrystalline technology, has already reached 92% market share by the end of this year. So I believe that this trend will continue to reduce the LCOE for all the IPPs and the EPCs. And we also believe that this creates value for all the industry. And the second point, I'm also going to share a little bit more about the reliability behind LONGi's success. The reliability will ensure value to the IPP. So I'm putting this reliability into two categories. First category is the bankability, which means the financial health of the company. As you know, there are many big companies in the past where they become very successful, but later on they went bankrupt and was not able to deliver their after-sales service to the industry. So this, we believe this is very important with the best bankability in the industry. As you can see, that have been highlighted by Bloomberg as the highest score in the RMC scores, which means we are most unlikely to be bankrupt in the industry. Also, we are number one in the T1 list, and also the only AAA bankability rating by PV Motortech third parties. This is also the 100% bankability survey result top 10 by the Bloomberg NEF, which means all the bankings and the financial institutes will be able to provide easy financing if you use LONGi solar modules. This is the only AAA company by PV Motortech. The second category which I'd like to highlight is the quality. The quality of the modules is very important, and also the energy generation. As you can see in many third parties tests, LONGi always remains top 1 position, whether it's TUV-REN, RETC, PV-ER, or PV-Methane. In all the simulation tests and also the auto test, LONGi always remains in the top position. This means our modules can generate very reliable power and even higher power than competitors. So here is another aspect about the only ITC high quality achiever with the most strict quality test in the industry. This is the details of the testing. So I'd like to share this screen because LONGi always make our model design with a lot of factors into consideration. We consider the electric design, we consider the raw materials, we also consider all the supply chain and also the transportations, which means in the end it will be a very reliable supply chain for the end customers. And this also means reliability for the modules. So as you can see that we have done many technology innovations, and one of the most important of them is the gallium doped silicon wafers, which has solved the problem of the RID and also reduced the degradation of the solar panels a lot. So which means that by using gallium doped wafers, this can have higher module generations for your solar power plants. This is also the third-party verification results for this RID problem. And also in terms of the beneficial, LONGi has also made a lot of field studies in all around the world with figures showing that the beneficial modules will generate more power than the normal monofacial modules. So one will be also in Saudi Arabia with 11% more generation. So also coming to the third point, the product portfolio. So LONGi is having this philosophy. We call it all solution, all scenario application, on which means we have different products for different applications. So we have residential, C&I, and DG power plants, where we're using HEMO4, HEMO4M for the DG, and also for the utility, we use HEMO5 and HEMO-N. So in terms of the utility, for all the big power plants, we would like to recommend for the HEMO5 solar motors with the highest power being can reach 545 with motor efficiency of 21.5, and also is a smaller version is 66 cells with a 500 watt is also available in the same motor efficiency. This is a motor technology with incorporated with many technology, together half-cut and the gallium doped technology, and also incorporated the smart soldering technology, which is one of the best examples of LONGi making the best combination of the raw materials and the cells design. Also, we have a BOS cost comparison between our 540 motors against other motors in the industry. So we have made a very easy result, which shows that this motor can give the lowest BOS cost, which means gains for the IPP customers in the industry.
If we still have 1 minute, please, Felix.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so for the DG projects, we also have a C&I and the residential application where we have a three choice of different products, 66, 60, and 72 cells with different dimensions, but the width of the product is the same, so which can be easily applicable for all the different applications. So you can see over different scenarios where the roof is smaller, like in Netherlands, you can use 66. And if you have a big ones, slightly big one, you can use 66 cells. And if you even big ones, you can just use 72 cells module. Also in the C&I, we recommend to use 72 cells and 6 cells in terms of its not flat roof. So summary, we are the largest solar technology company, and they provide the best quality and bankability for customers. And also we have a selected product portfolio, which means we can serve all the scenario applications. So our wish is to be all the IPP and EPC partners to reach best LCOE. So with all above, I just have maybe just a few slides to share the project reference of LONGi for you. So this 250 in China, 150 floating project, and in India, Vietnam, Argentina, Mexico, US, and also one of the biggest projects is in Qatar, which is under construction right now, so I cannot have a picture. In Egypt, also we have a 390 megawatt bifacial motors already supplied in the year 2018 and 19. And also C&I and the upgrade projects also being supplied to the Egyptian market. So looking to the future, we're looking for the rain Earth together with all the IPPs and also EPC companies. Thanks, all. And feel free to ask if you have any questions.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Felix, for this starting of the session, introduction, and covering the technology part. Definitely, we have already received a couple of questions in the Q&A section. We will answer them in the end. So please, if you still have questions to Mr. Felix, then please send them in the Q&A section. Now, before I hand over to the next speaker, we want to know better our audience. And that's why you would see a poll in front of you asking you to tell us from what country you join us. Please, if you are on social media, on YouTube, on Facebook, or LinkedIn or Twitter, please just write the name of your country in the comments so we know where you joined us from. I see that 65% so far are from Egypt, approximately 10% from Saudi Arabia, another 10% from other GCC countries, and we also have from Yemen, Jordan, North Africa, and from Europe. So thank you all for your participation in this poll. I'll ask just a second question to know more about your industry. So would you please let us know in what industry do you work? If you work for a developer, an EPC company, a manufacturer of solar panels or other components, a company in the CNI segment. This means a factory or any commercial building owner that is considering solar. I see that 27% are from EPC, about 15% from developer side, and approximately 25% from academia, from universities. We see 10% from manufacturers as well. Some people from the commercial industrial sector. So please, if you are on social media, also write that so we also know your background, and this will help us to customize as the session as we move forward. So there's a diversity of countries, a diversity of industries of people watching us. You are all welcome. I hope that you all find useful information for you in this session. And with that, I would like to thank Felix again and move to Wafi Al-Qabbani. If you please share your screen, and we'll be happy to hear about Swedish Electric and its activities in the renewable energy sector, and to get a status update about the EPC market in Egypt for solar PV.
So thank you so much, Munif, for the introduction, and welcome everybody to today's webinar. Again, my name is Wafi Al-Qabbani, the Business Development Team Leader at Swedish Electric TND. On behalf of the company, I would like to convey our pleasure in joining you today among your distinguished guests from LONGi Solar, Solarize, Egypt, and Taka Solar. Before going to today's topic, allow me first to briefly introduce our company. Swedish Electric was established in 1938, grew from electrical equipment trading into a global integrated energy solution provider. Swedish Electric is actually enlisted in Cairo Exchange Stock since 2006, having a number of fleets of more than 15,000. We have achieved total revenues in third quarter of 2001 of about 40.9 billion Egyptian pounds, with net income of 2.3 billion Egyptian pounds. Swedish Electric is now present in 6 continents with 22 production facilities, of which 19 of them are in Africa, and as well 110 export destinations of all Swedish products portfolio. We provide solutions to our clients over 5 business lines: wires and cables, electrical products, engineering and construction, smart infrastructure, and infrastructure investment. For Swedish Electric's renewable energy profile, Sweden has joined forces with EDF, electricity funds, to develop, finance, build, and operate 2 solar PV power plants in Miban with a total capacity of 130 to 100 megawatt peak under Egypt's FIT program, to be the first, to be the corporate first flagship project in renewable energy. Swedish Electric's second renewable energy milestone was the acquisition of 3 wind farms and the hydro plant in Greece of total generation capacity of 63 megawatt peak. This project was 75% funded by the National Bank of Greece, with the remaining 25% paid in equity. The wind farm constitutes Vestas wind turbines, and this is also undertaking the operation and the maintenance of the wind farms. Now, after this brief overview of the Swedish Electric, we move forward to my company, Swedish Electric TND. TND has been established in 2007. TND is the EPC arm and subsidiary of Swedish Electric, providing expertise in a wide range of services from low up to extra high voltage power transmission distribution projects, as well as other generation projects in solar, as well as we will see in the coming slides. Our extensive experience and more than a decade-long profile allowed us to gain capabilities that not only lies in our value-added engineering, but as well our commitment and expertise in delivering energy solutions with agile project management and EPC plus finance packages, complemented by our strong financial robustness. As for our regional presence, we are present in 19 countries in the Middle East and Africa region with local offices in 8 countries: Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Algeria, Mauritania, Ghana, Cameroon, Angola, and finally Zambia. Our department, so this is the slide for the achievements that we had over the last 10 years. It has been through T&D's consistent growth over the past decade. We have delivered thousands of kilometers of transmission lines and distribution networks, as well as full size power plants, not to mention our progressive solar EPC profile of 124 megawatts solar plants, which is still in progress under construction as we speak. So very swiftly, we've been through T&D now into our renewable energy department portfolio. Our department was structured 3 years ago as a continuation of T&D's growth. We are currently constructing, as I said, 124 megawatt projects in more than 1 country in Africa. We have a total pipeline of 291 megawatt peak of secured contracts managed and executed by our department. Our PV solutions include as well integrated aggregate battery energy storage systems, capacities of up to 74 megawatt hour. Our multidisciplinary team of renewable energy experts, electrical and civil engineers have enabled us to secure the 11 projects in the 7 countries that I've just mentioned. We have streamed through our contracts of an average of $260 million US dollars. In response to the increasing demand in other vital sectors, new business units were structured as well here in T&D, leveraging our momentum, now having a department in the water, oil and gas, and transportation sectors as well. A quick highlights on our major achievements for the solar EPC. It's our pioneer project. This is the first awarded EPC contract we received in Juba, South Sudan. This is a 20 megawatt peak project, which is currently at 85% progress. It's the first of its kind in the region, incorporating a battery energy storage system of about up to 35 megawatt hour for the grid stabilization. Second achievement that we are proud of, we take pride in this Egypt's strategic project, Egypt's modernization, through the first of its kind solar-powered ITS project, Intelligent Transportation System, under the management of the Minister of Defense, in which Swedish traffic management and control systems are currently being installed on numerous roads across Egypt. The PV powering system accumulated aggregate capacity of 5 megawatt peak, in addition to 25 megawatt hours battery storage. Now that we had a brief overlook of the Swedish profile, we move to today's topic, the solar PV in Egypt, the distributed generation market. So the decision of expanding T&D service into the solar PV field was based on our deep experience and true understanding of the criticality of the EPC and its impact on the investment's feasibility. Any investor's KPI for deciding an investment is a short payback and a high IRR. Achieving this means that the EPC party is capable of providing adequate in-depth engineering with a strong financial profile and solid, well-established networks of suppliers and service providers. So focusing on this PV EPC model, PV is by nature a high capex solution and very cost sensitive to the material procurement specifically, in which 1 US cent could shift a winning bid to a losing one. And we can see this from the preliminary structure, which of course, if you're going to go into more details of it, there has to be other portions of the costs, like the sales and marketing, all the overheads, the permitting, license, and so on. So when we discuss PV distributed generation in Egypt, we find ourselves with a very wide range of potential investment opportunities. After all, energy is the main driver of development of all sectors. So industrial, agriculture, tourism, all sectors and others, especially in this dynamic market like in Egypt with significant development momentum, which we have been actually witnessing over the past 7 years here. Taking, for example, the industrial sector, Egypt's strategic development plan for growing and fortifying industries has set tens of locations where many, but not all industry stakeholders are gathered. Now that the Ministry of Trade and Industry announced their national plan of establishing numerous industrial zones and complexes and free zones, geographically distributed as shown here in the map, We have also to mention that till last year, we have about 118,000 subscribers to the distribution companies here in Egypt, which stand as potential customers so far, unfiltered as well. And of course, they present a portion of the potential customers that all EPC stakeholders or all PVC stakeholders in Egypt should focus with. So the next sector that we would like to look into is, for example, the agricultural sector, which is in need of solutions as PV solutions, specifically in the empowerment of their systems, which is now a growing sector that's witnessing huge development leaps in agricultural development and land reclamation. To date, we could say that we have as well also 111,000 potential customers who are expanding their businesses in this field, in this sector, and in need to work on reducing their operating cost of fueling their systems. So when we talk about the distributed generation market regulations, our discussion today is basically as a result of the government's steps towards this national strategic goals of increasing the renewable energy share in our energy mix in Egypt, allowing industries to thrive and grow, capitalizing on the ongoing electrical market liberalization we're witnessing nowadays or over the past couple of years. Of course, the law 78, years 2015, is the beginning, let's say, of the evolved and reshaping of the potential renewable energy potentials in Egypt. This law also, of course, opened up regulations and improvements to increase investments in this sector. However, of course, with the latest edition of Egypt Air regulations published in May last year, we, as PV stakeholders, faced a lot of, let's say, constraints or obstacles, challenges. That is the capping of the maximum allowed capacities to be installed, the undefined to date, the merger fee that they are supposedly going to integrate into the aggregate costs of installing a PV system, whether it's residential or commercial or industrial. And so far, we're left to date until September with only 178 megawatts capacities allowed out of the 300 original cap set by the regulatory bodies. So when we talk about challenges that we face here in Egypt for the C&I sector, of course, nowadays we're witnessing global and local challenges. Global is, of course, well known to everybody. This COVID-19 pandemic, the China energy crisis, which of course reflected on the surge in the raw materials prices and consequently the modules and so on. On the local side, of course, the market liberalization is still in progress. It's not yet fully complete. We also have noticed that from the consumer side awareness, there should be more communication, there should be more in-depth study of their own businesses and how we can tailor solutions for them. Definitely the regulatory and public interests should be aligned with more deepened discussions and communication. And of course, if you talk about communication, for example, there are some decisions that have been taken by the regulatory bodies and the government. For example, this 5% duty imposed on modules that has been zero over the last years, incentivizing the solar PV market in Egypt. This is one of the aspects. Of course, another example is the renewable energy certificates that's still on hold, the wheeling fee or the wheeling scheme that is already set. However, we haven't seen any contracts utilizing this service by the grid operator here in Egypt. So basically, these are the challenges that we have seen. And of course, there are lots of recommendations, lots of solutions, lots of ideas that we can share together, either through communicating here on this prestigious panel or on communication directly with stakeholders, which we are looking forward to. So by this, I hope I sustained my 10 minutes allowed duration for the presentation, Munif, and I thank you and thank everybody. And I'm open for any questions, and please visit our website, SwedeElectric.com. You're gonna find a lot more detail, lots of numbers about our company and where we stand now and the size of our businesses. So thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you, Wafi. I appreciate this information that you shared with us. That's a good overview about the DG market in Egypt, and sets the ground now to help us to dig deeper and start talking about the IPP model and how to apply for the IPP model in Egypt. And for that, I would like to invite Ms. Marina Subhi to tell us more about it. First, to have a quick introduction about Taka PV, and then learn more about the IPP sector. Thank you, Wafi, for the presentation, and I welcome you, Marina, to start.
Thank you, Vinny.
Thank you.
Good morning. Hello, everyone. First, let me introduce Taka BV and Taka Arabia. Taka BV is a subsidiary from Taka Arabia, which is considered as Egypt's leading integrated energy distribution company. Taka Arabia operates via 4 business divisions: Taka Gas distribution, natural gas to Egypt; Taka Power, power generation and distribution; Taka Petroleum, fuel and gas stations; and Taka Water for water desalination and water treatment. And recently we added a new member to our group, Taka BV, which dedicated for solar business. From this chart, we shows that Taka Arabia serves as one-stop shop energy solution provider. Our scope of work regarding Taka Solar includes system design and optimize to reach lowest LCOE, EPC management, manage the project during all its life phase, provide full scope of O&M also, development, and provide investment needed for project executions. Our biggest successful story was at Bimban Solar Park, which has won a Best Project Annual Award by the World Bank Group. Our project size was 65 megawatt DC, feed-in tariff, and investment about 72.5 million. There was many achievement and successful stories in this project. For example, Taka project is the first project to finish construction during phase 2 in Bimban, and the first to connect to the grid. Taka project shortlisted as one of the best ENS plot in Bimban by the IFC. Now we have successfully commissioned 71 mega, 65 at Bimban project, and 6 mega at Dina Farms, which we successfully commissioned last September. And now we have 10 megawatt on progress project. We plan to reach a COD by second quarter 2022. 5 megawatt at Suma Bay, Red Sea, 2 mega at Nab, South Sinai, 2 mega 6 October, Giza, 1 mega Ascom factory at Minya government. And also we have many business opportunities and projects under study phase, and our pipeline reach 100 megawatt. During the last year, we have signed 5 PPA contracts, and we have go through the qualification and the approval cycle 5 times. And based on this experience, we prepared this process chart, which explain all IPP license and approvals needed under the Egyptian law. The first thing, sorry for that. The first thing you should do after signing a PPA contract is heading to NAREA to get NAREA qualification above 500 kilowatt. For the last year, Naria had only one type of qualification for permanent qualification for the project below 500. So if you have many projects with capacity above 500, you had to issue a qualification license for each project individually. But recently, Naria issued a new qualification criteria. It will classify all the EPCs into four classes: bronze, silver, gold, and platinum, based on the capacity of the reference project, successfully commissioned project. So from now, you don't need to issue individual qualification for each project. This will reduce the cycle minimum by 3 weeks. The second thing you should do right after signing a PPA contract is heading to EEAA, Egyptian Environmental Affairs Agency, to get the environmental approval. What you should do is prepare an environmental impact study and deliver it to Naria, and Naria will deliver it to EEAA. They will study the project and the plan. Will give you the approval about 6 to 8 weeks. After getting Naria qualification, you should head to the distribution company which the project is connected to get their approval. You will submit all technical files regarding the project, the contract, of course, Naria qualification. They will study the file and give you a letter shows that they are approved the project. The last thing and the most important thing is Egypt Era Construction Permit, interim license. From the diagram, we see that you should have all the previous approvals before heading to Egypt Era. Egypt Era is very important step and milestone in the IPP project life cycle because you can't start the construction unless you have it. Also, when you have the construction permit, it allows you to enjoy a deduction on the VAT value on the imported material, especially PV and inverter. It will reduce the VAT value from 14% to 5%. This difference will affect your IPP model. Surely it will affect the IRR ratio, the tariff value. So it's a very important step in the project life cycle. All the license approvals, the period will take 14 weeks, about 14 weeks, 3 to 4 months. It seems to be a long process and time consuming, but if you can manage this process closely and smartly, you can get each license approval just in time. That's it. I hope it was useful, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Marina. That's very helpful and that's very hands-on. I think for those that were looking for the process of how to develop IPP projects in Egypt, and this was very helpful. And in case I think you need anything more, then please send us questions in the Q&A section and direct them to Marina so we can answer this in the end of the session. Thank you, Marina. Because we are running tight of time, I will move directly to Mohammed from Solarize Egypt. If you please share your presentation. And you have your full time. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. First of all, thank you, Munif, for the introduction, and Wafi, Marina, and Felix for the amazing work and contribution. Obviously, we're all in the same market working together. There's been a lot of changes. I don't want to take too much of your time going over historically what has happened in Egypt. I would like to focus on what we're doing moving forward, and where the market is going and what we can do together to possibly open up the market. The way I see it is that there's a lot of opportunity, and every bit of effort that each one of us puts paves the way a little bit further for all of us. So, one individual company's success kind of paves the way for someone else. What I would like to do is maybe just give a quick overview of Solarize Egypt, and then maybe we can dive into the case study. I'll try to do it as quickly as possible, but if you have any questions, I prefer you leave them to the end of the Q&A so that we don't take up too much time. So first of all, Mohammed Al-Samma, I'm the Chief Commercial Officer for Solarize Egypt. I joined the company 4 years ago. It had been founded in 2013 by Yassine Abdel Ghaffar. We started at a time when there was a lot of electrical disruptions in Egypt, no easy access to electricity. There was a lot going on after the revolution. And we figured, you know what, solar seems like a great opportunity to get into at the time. We were quick to realize that it wasn't as easy as we thought it would be. Cost of solar was very expensive. The modules were very expensive. There was no physical way to actually utilize the grid to store the energy that was being exported when it was not being used. The financing cost was very high. We struggled a lot. We tried to focus on EPC contracts. We figured, you know, let's not carry the hassle of having to worry about financing it ourselves, put the capex on the client. We quickly realized that that was not going to work. And at that point in time, a lot changed. You know, China came into the manufacturing process very heavily. Solar module prices went down. We had the government, you know, promoting solar by allowing the net metering scheme to take place. You could export the energy temporarily and use it another day, another month, without having to worry about, you know, losing that exported energy in the morning. You had Egypt removing the subsidies on electricity and pricing going up. So customers and clients were more sensitive to electricity prices, willing to entertain the idea more. And we slowly started to, you know, build a little bit of a financial model that we found would still, you know, make sense in terms of a feasibility study for our clients as a capex investment. We then quickly realized it still wasn't good enough. At that point in time, nobody wanted to put their own money into solar. They'd rather invest it in their own facilities, you know, improving their process of manufacturing, or, you know, having some savings for a rainy day. And we quickly shifted our focus into the IPP model. We started building a financial model essentially where we could take the capex completely from the client and basically sell electricity that's pegged to government rates at a discount for a period of 25 years. We found that 25 years seemed to be the sweet spot. The EBRD got involved heavily in terms of, you know, educating the local banks on how to properly finance solar companies and solar projects. We primarily focused on project finance. We did not put up any collateral for these stations. We wanted it to be purely a project finance model where we bring a solid contract with a creditworthy off-taker, a good feasibility study, technical and financial review done by the EBRD, and essentially start financing these projects. Our first client and our first win was Coca-Cola. We had a pilot project of 1 megawatts, which I'm going to show you on the screen shortly. That was a great success for us. It was the first net metering IPP license to be issued in Egypt. We had the EBRD as a technical and financial verifier on it. And we were also lucky to get something called the GEF grant. GEF is an EBRD facility called the Green Economy Financing Facility. It actually allows for an allocation of around 10% of the debt portion as a grant, which helps improve the economics substantially, considering that electricity prices in Egypt were still very low and that we would essentially have to sell at a loss at the first few years before realizing a profit later on down the line. What happened is that most of the major developers in Egypt, you know, such as Swedish and Talca, they're titans, right? They were in the market long before us. And when the BIM BAM project opened up, it seemed like a great opportunity for them to step in. They had the muscle, they had the weight, they had the financing, and they were primarily focusing on the feed-in tariff program. What we wanted to do, considering that we're a small company at the time, was look at the CNI market and try to enter that market as quickly as possible so that we could build a relatively strong track record and hope for, you know, what Wafi mentioned is that eventually down the line, you'd have a strong wheeling structure that will allow you to essentially cover the remaining portion of that company or off-taker's needs through a wheeling scheme, utility size, you know, projects that were done somewhere else and using the Egyptian transmission company as a wheeling mechanism. What we ended up doing is we actually ended up rolling out another 4 facilities with Coca-Cola. So we know I have a total installed capacity of 5 megawatts with Coca-Cola. We landed a 7.2 megawatt facility for the Arabian Cement Company, and then we actually have a phase 2 for it that's around 13 megawatts. We successfully constructed and commissioned another 7.2 megawatts as well for El Gouna City in Hurghada, with another phase 2 coming into play. And as we were doing that, the landscape changed completely. You know, we started getting more restrictions on the metering scheme, and it was fair. Trying to solve the energy problem in Egypt, you can't compete directly with the local generation companies. You had to essentially try and address the areas of the market that were not serviced, and it made sense for them to cap it at that point in time, because we did have an electricity glut in Egypt, and, you know, there was a need for us to focus on areas where we could expand without having to compete for the same clients. So we started looking at the off-grid market. There's a lot of potential in the off-grid market right now. In Egypt, you have a lot of mining operations that are taking place, companies that require hundreds of megawatts to essentially support their mining efforts. You have solutions with storage, solutions with PV diesel hybrid. You have a tariff that starts at around 3.5 Egyptian pounds compared to what you would say 1 in 5 pesos or 1 in 50 pesos in the commercial markets. And what we're doing right now is trying to expand as much as possible in that market and hope that at a given point in time, we'll have CNI captive energy clients, we'll have off-grid clients, and we'll have all of them both available for a wheeling scheme later down the line, so that essentially we had fenced the market to an extent. What I'm going to show you is just a quick picture of the facility that we constructed for Coca-Cola as a pilot. And I'll give you a little bit more detail about what we went through in terms of the process and how we financed it and what makes sense. Just give me 1 second just to put this into full view here. I'll share the desktop. And then it's just right on there. I just need to move this for a second.
It's in the view, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get it because it's blocked by the tab for the, here we go. Okay, perfect. So this is our 1 megawatt facility for Coca-Cola. It's purely a rooftop system. It covers around 26 to 30% of their consumption. We did a rollout in Asyut for 2 megawatts. This is the ACC facility that we're talking about, the 7.2 megawatt operational facility that we have, and Laguna, which is another 7.2 megawatts. Now let's go back to Coca-Cola. As I mentioned, the most important thing to note is that we are a solar financing company. We are technology agnostic. We look for the best technology available at the market at any given point in time. And we at first had started to do the EPC ourselves, but then quickly realized that there were much better, stronger, more qualified people that had the ability to actually give us much more competitive prices for EPC than we would. So essentially the focus that Solarize Egypt went to was to how can we generate the cheapest kilowatt hour possible. At that point in time, the local banks had very minimal experience in financing solar. They didn't even understand the technology very well. And that's when the EBRD came into play. They came in basically saying, listen, we've monitored and worked on projects abroad. We have experience in terms of verifying the technical capabilities of solar stations. And also we're able to conduct local studies on the free energy price or the local energy price of electricity, where it's factoring in gas costs, factoring in cross subsidies, factoring in inflation rates in Egypt, and be able to build a study. And what they did is they essentially gave us a roadmap for the possible increase in prices for electricity. We utilized that as a benchmark against our financial model and started building a model where essentially we would finance 25 to 30% of the equity portion of the plant, and then ourselves, and then we would finance the remaining 75 or 70% through local banks. We're purely EGP based. We did not take any foreign rates or foreign financing. We did not want to carry the FX risk ourselves. There is a little bit of an experience in Egypt here when we had the devaluation of the US dollar that burnt everyone, and nobody wants to carry that risk. Although I don't think that's going to be the case moving forward. I think we're in a much stable position today than we were before, and the fluctuations are going to be minor. However, though, this is the situation in 2018, right? This facility was commissioned in 2018. So things were very different then. The EBRD played more than one role, as I said. They actually would send, we would prepare a feasibility study for them that they would look at, and they would essentially come back to us with comments. And what they did, which was very beneficial for us, was they helped us design a very strong and fair power purchase agreement. As you can imagine, project finance on that level for a facility worth $1 million, you needed to have some level of guarantee within the PPA itself that was not reflected in a corporate guarantee or in some form of collateral. So we structured the PPA that had a minimum take-or-pay clause that was very clear and to the point. We also had different scenarios played out in terms of what would happen to electricity prices in the annexes if there was an increase, decrease, stagnation of prices. They helped us calculate buffers in our financial model. They helped us design a PPA that would give us more than one avenue of resolution if anything were to happen to the facility. So if the client would go bankrupt, or if the client would have a disruption of business, or if there was an inconsistency in payment, these are all very important clauses to look at in any PPA. As you can imagine, we had to have many iterations of this power purchase agreement up until we reached a point where the client was willing to sign and you were willing to sign, and the EBRD was willing to give the go-ahead. As you can imagine, in any facility in Egypt, solar is a space-intensive technology. We require a lot of space to produce electricity that you could primarily or probably produce to tri-generation in a much smaller capacity. So to find the right mix where it's an off-taker that has rooftop or land area that's good enough for you to be able to build at least a 1 megawatt facility that is financially bankable, and to be able to find the creditworthy off-taker in Egypt that a bank would be willing to finance for 10 to 11 years, knowing that the contract still extends for another 15 years for a total of 25 years. It's problematic. And that's why I find that it's very important for us to focus on what's happening outside the on-grid CNI market. There is opportunity there for sure. You're probably going to get a lot of clients that are in the 1 to 2 megawatt facilities. But I think everyone on this call here is very interested to see how we can take it further. We want to reach the gigawatt numbers. And that's why I would recommend anybody that's entering the market to look at the untapped off-grid solutions, to look at the remote areas that do not have access to electricity, to look at developers or manufacturers that probably have land areas such as cement manufacturers, ceramics, steel, because they typically require by law to have a lot of land area around them for their emissions. And I'd be more than happy to talk about the details of the project with anyone individually later on if they want to ask any questions about it. Just as a point, the 1 megawatt facility was in Sadat. It's an offshoot of Cairo. It generates around 1.7 million kilowatt hours. We do the O&M ourselves. It's already been financed 100% with a net metering license for 25 years. We've had a success with it. We've rolled out to 4 other facilities, totaling 5 megawatts. And that's pretty much it. I hope I didn't overrun my time here. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to join in.
Perfect. Thank you, Mohammed, for this very useful presentation, and actually very optimistic photo in here to see that this model is being implemented in Egypt and being successful in Egypt. And that's something that we'll get back to you with in the questions section. Thank you, Mohammed. Thank you all for the presentations. I would like to ask everyone to bear with us for 5 more minutes, so we can use 7 minutes here for the Q&A section. And within this section, we will be kind of trying to answer the questions that we received on Zoom and some questions that we received on LinkedIn as well. The first question goes to Felix, as there is a question from Tariq Ubaid, who asked about the N-type wafers and the N-type modules, and if you have that at LONGi. And his second half question is, when would you reach 210 millimeter cells, which sounds maybe like a misconception, like 210 is better, but maybe I think I will leave the proper answer to come from Felix, please.
Okay, thanks, Secretary. I think he has a good understanding of LONGi's technology. Yes, so LONGi has already have launched our MM product since June this year. So generally, it takes around 2 to 3 quarters for a new technology to be mass produced. So this product will be available next year around Q2. So definitely will be offered to the Egyptian market for sure. Regarding the second question, I think the point is about the wafer size or the cell size. So as shared in my screen, actually I have highlighted that LONGi has now being the standard setter for the 182 wafer size. And the 210 actually is another technology where we define that the technology is not so proper because of the size of the modules will be too big for the big installation, where the O&M and also the installation and presentation will be a challenge. So at this moment, I don't think that LONGi will put our focus into the 210 wafers. Our focus will be still on the HIMO 5 or the 182 millimeter wafer size.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that, Felix. My next question, I think, goes to Wafi, please. It comes from Mhandis Hamza Al-Qai, who asks if solar trackers would be suitable for distributed generation market. And are all of the DG projects in Egypt mostly on rooftops, or do you have some ground-mounted projects for that segment?
Thank you for the question. Well, actually, single-axis trackers so far are not suitable for distributed generation, and definitely not rooftops. I mean, the mechanism behind it is not suitable for rooftops. When it comes to the distributed generation, it could be feasible if you're talking about a higher capacity starting 5 or 10 megawatts, maybe then it would come in play, but it's still relatively expensive. And also when you look at the maintenance also works associated with it, it has to have some dedicated people for it. So unfortunately, the answer is no, unless the R&D guys of the manufacturers of single axis trackers work on reducing the manufacturing costs, so be available for the market with a feasible commercial price.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for the answer, Wafi. And then the next question comes from Tamara Utum, which I would like to direct to Marina, please. And she asks, can you please explain the structure of the net metering scheme in Egypt, the capacity limits, any charges per kilowatt hour?
The net metering scheme is limited now to only 1.5 from the distribution company capacity. So we should first detect which distribution company which is the project is connected to, and ask for the available capacity in this region. And there is another solution, is the net metering is not available in this distribution company. You can establish the project under another scheme. It's self-consumption scheme, and all that you need is to install zero injection device, which limit the solar injection to the grid, and design the solar planet based on the client load profile to make sure that all the produced energy will consumed by the load, and there will be the extra energy will be limited as much as you can, if there is any excess energy, it will be considered as deemed energy, and it will be not useful to your model.
Okay, and for the off-grid, then there are no charges. So
no, it's on-grid, but you will limit the exceed energy to the grid. You will not allow to inject the grid with extra energy. You will design the project to consume all the energy produced from the solar planet will be consumed in the load.
Mm-hmm. Because Tamara, I had a follow-up question asking if there is an off-grid segment in Egypt, if that is okay, or if you need approvals, or do you pay any certain fees for that?
No approval needed for off-grid.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for this, Marina. Appreciate the answer. Now I have a question that I think most suitably goes to Muhammad, please. The question is from Ahmed Mahran, and he's asking about what is the LCOE range for the IPP projects in the DG market in Egypt? So what range are we talking about? I know it's a difficult, sensitive topic, but like just maybe like a range as an indication if possible.
It's a little bit problematic for me to answer this question. It's because we don't do a lot of EPC projects. LCOE is mostly used in EPC projects when you look at the payback period of the facility. For us today, for example, if you were to produce 1 kilowatt hour, it would cost you around £1 and 45 piastres, £1 and 50 piastres. However, we discount that at first for the first few years to match the government rates, and even actually go below government rates, and gradually increase it over the following years so that it catches up and returns an averaged out IRR over the 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're looking at an EPC, it would be, you would have to look independently, because we don't do our EPC anymore. I could probably follow up with this information later on if you want to.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and as you speak, I have a question that comes from the social media asking if why would the customer, let's say like Coca-Cola that you have, why would Coca-Cola do this with the IPP model? Why won't they just simply build a solar plant on their roof?
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. So this is what we do. So today, any client that you talk to, they're not experts in the technology. They don't have the economies of scale to maintain the technology, and they don't want to be bothered with it. What they want is that they want to partly contribute to the renewable movement that's happening, and also save money. I always say, it's always great to go green until it actually costs you money. Today, any client that would invest their own capex in a solar facility would have to hire a dedicated team to maintain it, be responsible for it, and also carry the risk of electricity prices not increasing aggressively, so that the payback scenario that they had in mind might actually play out, might not. What we do is we take that burden completely off the off-taker. We say, listen, this is not your ball game. If you had $1 million to spend, I'm sure that you could spend it with a better IRR in your own facility. What I will do for you is I will actually finance it 100%. I will take full responsibility for maintaining it and making sure that it produces the dedicated kilowatt hours. And also, I will not only do that, but I will guarantee you a discount every year for the next 25 years, even if the electricity prices go down. And furthermore, guarantee that in an absolute savings at the end of each year. So you're going to a person right now and telling them you have no responsibility whatsoever. We just get to utilize the unused rooftop space that you have to save you money for the next 25 years and hedge against electricity prices. Furthermore to that, there is a clause in our contract that allows the client to purchase the asset at any given moment in time. So in 3 or 4 years' time, if that client sees the savings as substantial and they want to step in, they can actually buy us out and own the asset outright and just have us on board for an O&M contract. And I think that's the best situation to be in right now, because we're at a time when nobody wants to put money in anything and they just want to save as much as possible. So we're a cost-saving tool, and that's where we need to be.
Perfect. Thank you, Mohammed, for this comprehensive answer. That's very helpful, and it's a very positive note to close on this session. I don't think we can take more answers and questions from the audience, but all I want to say is that this session has been very useful to hear from Felix in the beginning that the technology is there. It is there in Egypt in the market, best technology that you can get in the market. We heard from Wafi that the market is there and it has been developing over the past couple of years. And then we also heard from Marina that regulations actually support such models like the IPP model, and the steps are clear. In 3 to 4 months, then you can already complete all the paperwork that you need to complete that procedure. And then we heard from Mohammed that actually there is a business case that is very strong. There is a high need from customers for that. This sort of projects and model and implementation models have been already implemented in Egypt, like the Coca-Cola project that was presented by Mohammed. And that is definitely a very big success story that can be repeated in Egypt. And we hope that this will be repeated in Egypt many, many times, hundreds and thousands of times, by the participation of the Egyptian companies and the international companies that are providing technology or financing or expertise, so we all can collaborate together in this domain. So thank you very much for this very helpful discussion. First of all, I want to thank the attendees, and sorry for keeping you 10 minutes longer than the planned session, but I hope that you enjoyed this last part of the Q&A that we had. Thank you for those that watched us on the social media. I wish to thank the panelists today. All of you have been awesome. Felix, Marina, Wafi, and Mohammed, thank you very much for the knowledge that you shared today. And if we get any further questions, we'll be sending this to you by email. The presentation and the recording are on the same registration page that you found on our website. It is available immediately. You can watch the recording if you missed any part of this session. I wish you all a very beautiful and sunny day if you have solar, so you make more kilowatt hours. And I hope that we speak in the next round. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.